The Russian and Indian presidents are meeting right here in Moscow to try and prove that power really is shifting to other parts of the world. A bit earlier in the program here on RT, I discussed it with Irina Galushko.
We're talking about a possibility of moving away from the so-called old world order. Enough of the Cold War rhetoric, are saying a lot of political analysts out there, and as well as leaders of the BRICS countries. What are these countries? Well, let's look at the letters. They're essentially standing for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And these countries are covering more than 1/4 of the planet's land coverage. And people living in these countries comprise almost half of the world's population. It's 44.5%. So definitely countries and people to be contented with and to listen to. So the members of these countries came together and said, hey, finally, it's about time we stepped away from the hegemony of the United States and the old Europe. They have already decided that they should be doing business in local currencies.
As most people know, many certainly, that India is a surging economy in the world, one of the biggest importers of oil, just showing the effect of that economy.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to today's meeting, though, can you give us a broader scope? What's India's role here?
India's role should not be underestimated. In fact, just recently there has been a report by Transparency International which said that out of all BRICS countries, as a matter of fact, India has placed at the top as the most open country when it comes to corruption and actually business dealings. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is China, which is also India's neighbor, who has just essentially issued a very large statement when it comes to de-Americanization of the world. Essentially, what Beijing is saying is that the dollar isn't helping the economy. The currency, in fact, is dragging the world economy down, and it's time to step away from it and look for other options.
As the ministers get together here in Moscow, those from India and, of course, with their Russian counterparts here in the capital, economics being discussed, but, of course, politicking as well.
Absolutely. We cannot get around that, of course. And if you look at the map, you look at India, and then you see other countries next to it, and we're talking about Afghanistan and Pakistan. So obviously, the two issues which are on the table is fighting terrorism and, of course, battling drug trafficking. That is something that Moscow and New Delhi will put their heads together on and hopefully come up with a few solutions in that regard as well.